The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
This morning, the massive manhunt continues for Charlie Kirk's killer. Brand new video and photos released of the person of interest. And defense attorney Alan Jackson back with a brand new defendant. This time, he's representing a man who was accused of killing 4 Pepperdine University students in a car crash. Will Jackson see success again? Plus, the man convicted of killing his 5-year-old daughter, Harmony Montgomery, wants a new trial. Does Autumn Montgomery have a chance at an appeal? Also this hour, we are gearing up for our next big trial. This one, a death penalty case in Florida. We are calling the pregnant mistress murder trial. It's all next, right here on Opening Statements. And welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Kelly Craft. I'm in today for Julie Grant. We appreciate you being with us this morning on this Friday. Just like in an actual trial, we are getting you ready for what's ahead in court. So grab a cup of coffee. It's time for the Daily Docket.
When the vehicle stopped or after the vehicle stopped, any noises that you recognized?
She just kept saying, "Mommy."
In Florida, the trial for 5 people charged in the alleged drive-by killing of 4-year-old Sonny Bell. Testimony there resumes at 8:30 a.m. Also in New Jersey, defendant Paul Canero. He has a speedy release hearing at 10 a.m. Eastern. He is accused of murdering his brother Keith and Keith's wife and children before setting both of their homes on fire. Also in Oregon, we are playing an unaired bond hearing for defendant Jared Norman. This is at 9 a.m. It's a murder case that takes a bizarre turn. Norman is accused of killing his girlfriend, but prosecutors revealed that the medical examiner found an unspent bullet in the victim's stomach. Meanwhile, the manhunt continues this morning for the person who assassinated conservative political activist Charlie Kirk. This was at a rally in Utah. Authorities released brand new video of the suspect. Take a look.
You see the suspect ran behind that upper building. He's going to come out on the right, moves to this far right corner. As he does, he's going to climb off the edge and then drop down to the ground. As he did that, he left some palm impressions. There's some smudges, some places we're looking to collect DNA. There's a shoe imprint, clearly identified as wearing Converse tennis shoes. Again, we'll replay that again so you can get another view of that. It's important to note his black t-shirt. There appears to be some white on the soles of those Converse tennis shoes. Those are all identifiable items that we're looking for. In the stills that are going to follow this, you're going to see a very distinctive t-shirt with an American flag and appears to have an eagle on it. There's also a baseball cap with a triangle on it and a pair of sunglasses.
New photos of the suspect highlight what he was wearing: a black t-shirt with an American flag and an eagle, a baseball cap, sunglasses, and Converse tennis shoes. Police are urging the public with any information to come forward. The governor of Utah says they have received more than 7,000 tips and have conducted 200 interviews. The FBI is offering a $100,000 reward. Here to discuss, retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Koffendorfer. Jennifer, thanks so much for being with us this morning, watching this case out of Utah and the manhunt for the suspect. What's your takeaway from this so far? It's been a few days, and not that that means that they're not doing their job or sifting through tons of evidence, but I think a lot of people are thinking, well, why haven't they caught him yet? Kind of walk us through that.
Right. This is a little bit of a difficult case. It reminds me of Luigi Mangione when he committed that murder. And then remember, he also evaded police for quite a while before he was captured. But he has made a lot of mistakes, this shooter. This is no professional. He's not gloved. He doesn't have his body covered. I think there is a chance that they will be able to recover DNA from that rifle. He didn't action that rifle afterwards, leaving that casing in there, leaving behind cartridges that were live. He made mistakes again with his visibility in terms of he didn't exactly scale that wall, surreptitiously or find an inner stairwell. I mean, he jumps out there in broad daylight. So a lot of mistakes here, Kelly. They're going to be able to identify him. I think it's going to take a little bit to find him.
Yeah, Jennifer, I was watching a lot of the updates last night when the FBI ended up having their news conference, and they showed that video of him scaling down that wall, and he begins to run, and then eventually he tries to kind of blend in with some of the other people around, crossing the street. Then he goes into this wooded area, and that's where they say he hid the gun. But then somewhere from there, he was able to evade authorities.
Yeah, it's interesting. He goes into another neighborhood. They talk about that, going into a neighborhood, and there is ring cam footage with further footage of him, but still his face is obscured just enough. But I tell you what, I believe somebody will identify him. He's just too unique. He's tall, he's slender, he's obviously in about his 20s. That shirt he's wearing, the fact he has Converse shoes on, these are unique identifiers that somebody should be able to say, listen, oh my gosh, I recognize a guy I know that dresses like that.
Yeah, and Jennifer, you speak of those Converse shoes. You can see them in those photographs, but also they said, from my understanding, they got a good print from when he scaled down that wall and he landed. So from that, I think they could take away a lot of information from that print.
Well, they're going to be able to determine a shoe size, and then on the roof, I believe I also saw another photo they released where they actually have it marked out, I believe a shoe print possibly on that roof as well. So they're going to know his shoe size, and they would have been able to know the shoes, but obviously they have a photo, and they're going to try to trace some of these items, this shirt, purchases, things like that. It's a monumental task, though.
Now joining the program is retired homicide detective Chris Anderson. Chris, thanks so much for being with us this morning. Let's bring you in on this. What are your thoughts on the investigation so far?
I don't have much to think. I think that the law enforcement investigators that are involved in this case are collecting major amounts of evidence. There are minute pieces of this puzzle that'll need to be put together in order for this to be brought to some closure. So, and we in the public, if you're not a part of a homicide investigation or a murder investigation such as this, you never know all of the information that goes into or what's come into play. You never know every single step, and that's that's on purpose, because you never want to reveal everything you have. Just like we in the public are paying attention to this investigation, so is the suspect. And the more he knows, the further ahead he puts himself.
Let's go ahead and play some audio. This is some dispatch audio that we have, and Chris, I'm going to talk with you about it on the other side.
UVU by the Sampson reported one individual that was shot, unknown where the shooter went. And let's be advised, UVU in Autumn has had an active shooter at the Charlie Kirk event. We're getting several calls. We're trying to get more information. Gunshots heard near the library at UVU. They're trying to lock the library down now. Still gathering. Maybe the CS building is just east of the library. He's wearing jeans, black shirt, black mask, long rifle. Is on top of the building on the far north side, just east of the library, wearing jeans, black shirt, black vest.
Into UVU. There was one shot. We are staging at the front of the school by the roundabout.
We do have officers following the victim to St. Bernardus Hospital. 418 copy. How many injured do we have? It's just one person.
Chris, 7,000 tips. 7,000 tips, probably more, have been coming in since we even got that last number. They've done 200 interviews so far. How do you go through all of those and know what's relevant and what's not?
So that requires a lot of patience. That requires a team that's well versed in how investigations are carried out, because all of this information is going to be important. All 7,000 tips, they will all be important. And having a team that are well versed in their investigative mindset, that can dissect the information and extract what's important, what can be utilized, because the first portion of this investigation is important, but the ultimate goal is for this person to be brought to justice. So every bit of information that you gather through the evidence that's collected, through the interviews that you conduct, they will all be very, very important in order to bring this person to justice.
I do want to bring in the governor of Utah's an interview he had done in which he's talking about pursuing justice. Let's play that real quick.
More than anything, we are going to catch this person. Last thing I will just say is we've been working with our attorneys, getting everything that we need, affidavits ready, so that we can pursue the death penalty in this case, and that will happen here in the state of Utah.
Jennifer, he's saying they're going to pursue the death penalty in this case.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. This was assassination, and a political assassination at that. So it's very important that our political leaders are safe no matter what side of the aisle they are on. So as Chris was talking about, not only are you looking for somebody, but you have to also be maintaining that evidence correctly so that when it comes time for court, you have everything maintained in the right direction so that it can be used in court.
Jennifer, thank you so much for your excellent insight this morning. Chris Anderson, you're sticking around with us this morning on this Friday. Jennifer, thanks again. Coming up next.
He said he saw red and he just backhanded her. The more accidents she had, the more he would get angry and he would hit her repetitively.
He struck her blow after blow after blow. He assaulted and he murdered because of that rage, his rage.
He said he hated her, right to his core.
Will convicted child killer Autumn Montgomery get a new trial? We are spotlighting his upcoming appeal hearing. And a fatal crash leaves 4 Pepperdine students dead. The defendant back in court for a bail hearing. His attorney, Alan Jackson, from the Karen Reed case. How will Jackson do this time around?
The Court TV podcast will return.
They were the most amazing people I have ever met. And I don't just say that. I genuinely, I can't even put into words how perfect they were. They were the most amazing friends, the most amazing students, classmates. To know them was to really love them, and to know them was to be loved by them.
As those closest to 4 Pepperdine University students continue to deal with their loss, the man accused of taking their lives in a fatal crash has asked the court for a lower bail. Court TV's Julia Janae has more details on the sorority sisters murder case.
October 17th, 2023, 4 Pepperdine University sorority sisters are killed in a horrific car accident on the Pacific Coast Highway. Neve Rolston, Asha Weir, Deslyn Williams, and Peyton Stewart were all seniors and members of the Alpha Phi sorority. Prosecutors say they were killed when 22-year-old Fraser Michael Boehm lost control of his BMW while speeding through Malibu.
On October 17th at around 8:30 p.m., Mr. Bond was allegedly speeding at the speeds of 104 miles an hour on a 45-mile-an-hour zone on PCH when he lost control of his BMW. He allegedly crashed into a parked car before crashing into 4 pedestrians standing together on the side of the roadway.
Bohm was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder and manslaughter stemming from their deaths. Local station KABC was in the courtroom last month when Bohm made his first court appearance with his new attorney, Alan Jackson.
Before the entry of a not guilty plea, which is what we expect, obviously, I would ask the court for one continuance of the arraignment. We have just been brought on the case as of the last about 48 hours.
Jackson was Karen Reed's lead attorney in her trial earlier this year, which ended in acquittals for the murder and manslaughter charges she faced. Bohm's defense is expected to be that he was fleeing a road rage incident at the time of the wreck.
As far as another vehicle that's involved, we haven't been aware of anything like that. If there is anybody out there that actually has some information about that, or it was maybe a witness to it, I encourage you to contact the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
The defendant, Frazier Michael Bohm, and his attorney, Alan Jackson, were back in court earlier this week. They were requesting to lower his bond from $4 million to $2 million, which would free up funds for an expert intensive defense. Here's the judge's response to that motion.
There are many, many defendants sitting in the county jail right now who would love me to reduce their bail so they can hire Alan Jackson or other private counsel, but that's not the way it works. If Mr. Bohm cannot afford Mr. Jackson's services, he is free to find other private counsel, or he can request the appointment of the public defender if he qualifies for their services, which, despite being free, is oftentimes excellent.
Bohm's request was denied, but he is due back in court next month. So this morning, we're asking, how accommodating should the judge be for a fair defense? Why don't we go ahead and bring in our guest to discuss, the chief of police at Talladega College and retired homicide detective Chris Anderson, also family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. Good morning to you, as well as criminal defense attorney David Bruno. Hey there, David. I'm going to start with you this morning. All right, we just heard what the judge's response was to the motion brought forth by Alan Jackson. What's your take on the response and what Alan Jackson asked for?
Yeah, this is the reason why across this entire country, bail has been reformed. In my state, in New Jersey, we certainly have, in my state, we have modified that away from monetary bail to look at risk assessments because, we don't want defendants, and this is the extreme, obviously. This is a serious case and it's a very high bail, but there are many defendants across the entire country that are still in jail because they don't have the financial resources to come up with bail. And that is the reason for reform, to look at risk assessment. What is this defendant's prior history? Does he have a history of failure to appear? What are the facts and circumstances, which are also relevant, don't get me wrong. But when we talk about detention of a defendant during the pendency of cases, we want that to be whether or not they are a flight risk, whether or not there's a danger to the community, and whether or not there's a destruction of evidence. And in New Jersey, something like that wouldn't happen just because of bail. It would be on the risk assessments. And certainly there still could be detentions based on facts and circumstances. But that's why a lot of states are moving away from monetary bail as we have here in California.
Jennifer, let's bring you in on this. What's your take?
Well, I understand what David is saying, and it makes a lot of sense. But we have here someone whose bail was already reduced, I think by half. I think it was $8 million initially, and down to $4 million. And he's asking for a further reduction so he can hire an expert and have Alan Jackson represent him. And I'm not so sure that that really makes sense. I agree with the judge. There are many people sitting in jail that can't afford bail, can't afford the services of a high-priced attorney. He can, but that's not really a reason to reduce his bail. So I see that. In terms of risk, I mean, this guy was traveling allegedly at over 100 miles an hour on a road with significant resources. I mean, his family does have significant resources. So as a flight risk, potentially. So I can agree with the judge as to why he's just not agreeing to reduce the bail again.
Chris, let's bring you in on this. There's obviously a lot of talk, a lot of controversy regarding bail, cashless bail. We have a situation here, a young man, he's wanting his bail reduced again. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I agree with both the panelists. So I can understand why both the panelists feel that the way that they do. There should be a reform in bail. I think that it should be based on assessment instead of just emotions. But at the same time, everybody deserves to have a bail. What that bail is, it kind of depends on the situation. Here's a situation where we have 4 young females that were murdered by doing nothing wrong. They had there was nothing that they did to put themselves in a situation where they lost their lives. And the victim, due to misjudgment, due to some sort of reasoning, or is accused of being responsible for their loss of life. Now, knowing what I know about his family, knowing that they do have the means and opportunity, in order for him to become a flight risk, that all should be taken into account. But I do agree with the judge that his bail should not be lowered just because he's trying to, allocate that money towards his defense.
So Alan Jackson, he is the young man's attorney, so he is back at the center of yet another high-profile case. But we're wondering, can he capture the same magic as he did for Karen Reed? Let's listen to this.
There was no collision. There was no collision. There was no collision. You folks are the last line of defense. The last line of defense between an innocent woman and a system that has tried to break her, that falsely accused her, that tried mightily to bury the truth.
Many of us remember Jackson for representing Karen Reed during her trial, which ended in acquittals on murder and manslaughter charges. Now, he faces similar charges as he leads the defense for Frazier Michael Boehm in the sorority sisters murder case. So we're simply asking this morning, will Alan Jackson be successful again? Will he win again? Our panelists are still with us this morning. David, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, Alan Jackson has a lot of experience. He's had a lot of successes under his belt. What's your take?
Yeah, unfortunately for Alan Jackson, there's not going to be a trooper proctor in this with the text messages and the very difficult problems that the state had in Massachusetts. Here, this is an accident case. So what is really going to be important is the evidence that comes from the vehicle. The defendant was driving one of a newer vehicle. I expect that there's going to be a black box in there that will have event data evidence that will show us what the speed was shortly before the accident. Also, in the clip that we heard law enforcement asking if there's any other witnesses that had a vehicle involved in this, because obviously if there's another crack, it could be that something else caused the injuries or the accidents. And then finally, I think Jackson's going to probably go after the murder charge because there's 2 levels of culpability here in this complaint. It's a murder, which we typically look at as like a purposeful and intentional murder. In California, it requires malice, which could be expressed or implied. And they're moving on implied based on the dangerous act with knowledge of risk and conscious disregard for human life. I think Jackson's going to try to bring it down to the manslaughter as opposed to the murder. Those are some thoughts that I think Jackson's thinking about right now.
Jennifer, David used the word dangerous. That stretch of roadway out there in California, people have talked about that stretch of roadway for quite some time, talking about how dangerous that stretch of road is. Will Alan Jackson be able to use that?
Well, I think it's called Dead Man's Curve, so it's, implied that it's a pretty dangerous stretch of highway. I think Alan Jackson is an excellent attorney, and I think he's going to use whatever he can. But there was a collision here, and the question is, was there a high rate of speed? One thing he may point to is that there's been other incidents, other accidents, and I don't believe alcohol was involved here. At least there's no allegations of that. And he may point to other situations situation where accidents of this nature, people were killed, and maybe the charges weren't so high, or the ultimate, conviction wasn't the same, wasn't murder. So he may look at other situations as well in making his defense. But you heard him on the video saying in the Karen Reed trial, there was no collision. There was no collision. Here, clearly, there was a collision, and 4 lives were lost. So it's a tough situation for sure.
Chris Anderson, let's bring you in on this.
Yeah. So, I'm one of the people that never want to guess what a jury may do in a case. I never want to guess, because ultimately it'll be on the jury to make the decision, right? So here we have, on the surface, you have a vehicle. We know who the driver was. We knew that there was a high rate of speed. We know 4 people lost their lives behind it. So that's on the surface. But the underlying factors are what's going to be key. Just like David said, the black box will be important. All of the evidence that's collected at the crime scene will be important. That history of knowing that this stretch of road is known as the dead man's curve will all come into play. So asking whether or not he'll be successful, is something that I'd rather not say, because I've seen cases. I've had cases where I thought it was a slam dunk case, and 2-3 weeks into trial, I'm sitting back in the back of a jury room waiting, just thinking about what I could have done better, or what could have happened, or what could have been done more in a better fashion in order to bring this to closure. So I don't want to judge on whether or not he'll be victorious again, because there are way too many underlying factors.
Absolutely. Chief Chris Anderson, thank you so much for your excellent insight this morning. David and Jennifer, you're going to stick around, but have a great weekend, Mr. Anderson. And this just into our studios, we have some breaking news. The Associated Press is reporting that President Trump told Fox News this morning that the suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk has, quote, turned himself in. The comments come after new photos of the suspect show what he was wearing: a black T-shirt with an American flag, an eagle, a baseball cap, sunglasses, and Converse tennis shoes. Trump says a minister involved in law enforcement went to a U.S. Marshal with the information, and they took it from there. Quoting the president here, "Things may change, but facts are the facts. We have who we're looking for." We're expecting officials to give an update later on this morning, and as soon as we get some more updates, we will let you know. Meanwhile, still ahead on opening statements, Adam Montgomery. He wants a new trial. This after he was convicted of killing his 5-year-old daughter, Harmony Montgomery. Plus, we are previewing our next biggest trial. A man faces the death penalty in Florida after being accused of killing his pregnant mistress.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Can you make me a promise? Like, man to man? Can you tell me that she's alive?
You're gonna play the same word games that you played with me the other day.
It's not word games. Why is it you have so much trouble talking about Harmony?
Because I got nothing else to say.
In the spotlight this morning, convicted killer Adam Montgomery, who is one step closer to getting a new trial. The New Hampshire Supreme Court will hear arguments next month in Montgomery's request for a new murder trial. Montgomery was convicted in the murder of his 5-year-old daughter, Harmony. He was sentenced to 56 years to life in prison. And earlier this year, his attorneys filed an appeal citing 3 errors: the court's failure to sever assault and murder charges, evidence of past abuse that was admitted, and Montgomery's interaction with police in 2021 that was shown to the jury. Here's that video.
Your ex, Crystal, I did talk to her. She's like not mad at you. She's just kind of concerned. She hasn't seen her get away. So that's why the bells must start going off and people fall off because of the word. You know what I mean? So I don't know her that well. I know you better. I only met her once, so I don't know what type of woman, what kind of woman is she. She's crazy. When's the last time you had to talk to her?
2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Yep.
What happened 2 years ago? You guys stopped talking.
I don't even want to say nothing no more, man. I really don't.
Would you guys have like another blowout?
No.
No, I was out of Florida. I mean, on probation.
She wanted to see her kid.
What's so bad about it that you don't want her to?
I let her see her.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Like in person or like?
Yeah.
Oh. And then it was just not a good visit?
I got nothing else to say, John, right
Well,
now.
hey, if she did something wrong, I want to know.
I can't.
And we want to point out that jurors saw that video you just saw, but they saw it with no audio. So we're asking, does Adam Montgomery deserve a new trial? Here to discuss, family law attorney Jennifer Brandt and criminal defense attorney David Bruno. David, I want to start with you. Does he have a chance at his appeal?
Ooh, I'm scratching my head on this one, on this conviction. But I'll tell you what, one of the most frequently issues that gets convictions reversed is this prior acts. That's really, I look at the three areas. He's arguing prejudice because of a lack of severance on the assault and the murder, the prior allegations of abuse, and the statement. That kind of really may go into sort of that area. And that is where, as prosecutors, you really want to convict on the actual facts and allegations of the incident itself. Generally speaking, history is prohibited from coming in unless there's a very specific rule of evidence that allows it in. Usually it's 404B that we use throughout all of these states. And if there's relevance that is needed, probative evidence, lack of mistake, it goes to purpose, there's a pattern, things like that gets decided before the trial, then it gets allowed for those particular reasons. So when I look at this appeal, I see sort of that thread going through all three about prior abuses and prejudice that the defendant is arguing. But just because they accept this appeal doesn't mean it is getting reversed either, which is a worthy point to make.
Yeah, absolutely. Jennifer, so in that situation, as David was describing it, so you could see how jurors might take a look at past abuse that he did on his beautiful little daughter, Harmony, and then say, yeah, you know what, he killed her.
Yeah, and I mean, this was tough because I don't think her body was ever found, so we really don't have that evidence of her, death and how it was caused. But there was a lot of other evidence that were brought into the case. You're dealing with a beautiful child, so I think it's a really tough one. I'm not so sure he's going to get a new trial based on all the facts that came in during his first trial.
Now, his attorney said his estranged wife, Kayla, should not have been allowed to testify about Harmony's abuse. Let's go ahead and listen to some of what she had to say while she was on the stand.
Did you see him put Harmony in that duffel bag?
Yes.
How did he put her in there, Kayla?
He folded her in half and put her in the duffel bag.
And this was just another one of the trials here that we cover at Court TV that was so hard to watch and listen to the testimony of how this little girl was treated. David, what'd you think of her testimony? I mean, she was quite emotional on the stand, obviously.
Yeah, very emotional. Prosecutors have to bring the witnesses that have the personal knowledge. And unfortunately, they don't get to pick their witnesses. They don't get to pick the spouse of a defendant on a child abuse case. Let's not forget, Adam did not even appear at trial. I mean, you could imagine what the jury thinks about that. He wasn't in court for the testimony. He wasn't in court there. He was still in his jail cell when they were brought over, something that we were all talking about when we were watching that. But again, this 404B evidence for prosecutors is dangerous. And really, as prosecutors, and I've dealt with this before, do you need it? Do you really need to bring in the prior acts to support your allegations? Because certainly this is a very, very dangerous area when it comes to appeal, when appellate courts are looking at this and they're asking the same question. Was it needed? Did it override the prejudice that it brought to the case?
Now, police body camera footage shown to jurors violated his right to remain silent. That's what he's arguing. Why don't we go ahead and listen to a little bit more of that? And Jennifer, I'll talk with you about it on the other side.
You're not in trouble. Nobody said you're losing your daughter. Okay. So I want to make that clear. So I'll let you know I have my body cam on, just like everybody else is being on here. So you just need to find out where she is. That's all I'm concerned about. You're not in any trouble right now that I know of. Okay. You have no warrants. Okay. So where's your daughter so we can check on her to make sure that she's okay? Right now, I have nothing to say to you guys. But that's not what I'm just asking where she is. I have nothing to say. So you don't care if your daughter's okay or not? I do. I listen, I have nothing to say.
And Jennifer kept saying, I have nothing to say.
Right. So, I mean, he didn't confess anything. He didn't say anything about the crime. He just said he had nothing to say. So I don't see how he's arguing that, that was violating his rights. He was clearly not going to talk until he got a lawyer or until, there was some further questioning. So I'm not so sure how this is for overturning his fiction.
Yeah, we'll continue to follow it and bring everyone updated on it when things get moving more on that case. Jennifer, thank you so much. David, we have to say goodbye to you. Have a great weekend. Jennifer, you're coming along with us. Now, coming up, the pregnant mistress murder trial. Opening statements begin next week, and we are previewing the Florida death penalty case. That's coming up next.
This is the Court TV podcast.
And welcome back to Court TV. Now let's head to our next big trial here at Court TV. We are calling it the pregnant mistress murder trial. Opening statements are expected to begin on Monday. Defendant Jose Antonio Soto Escalera is accused of murdering his mistress, 23-year-old Tanya Wise, as well as their unborn child. Soto Escalera was married to someone else at the time of the murder, and he does face the death penalty in this case. Court TV's Michael Ayala has more on the background.
August 23rd, 2018, a motorist driving down a rural road in St. Lucie County, Florida, makes a horrifying discovery. The body of 23-year-old Tanya Wise lying in a ditch. She was found face down in the weeds with one of her hands still clenched tight. She was also 8.5 months pregnant.
To lose a child, it's just, there's no words for it. And then to lose my grandson too, there's no words for it.
Tanya Wise was just weeks away from giving birth and was already scheduled for a cesarean section. A month after her body was found, police arrested 41-year-old Jose Soto Escalera.
Today, the final piece of this very complex puzzle has been put in place.
According to court documents, Soto told police that he was married and had 4 children. He also admitted to knowing Tanya Wise, but said there was no chance that he was the father of her unborn baby. However, police were able to make a DNA match and determine that Jose Soto Escalera was the father of the baby. Investigators say that Soto gave Wise $500 to have an abortion. Well, not only did she not have the abortion, she was threatening to tell his wife about the pregnancy. Jose Soto Escalera is now charged with the first-degree murder of Tanya Wise and her unborn son, Josiah. If he is convicted, he could be sentenced to death.
So what will tip the scales of justice in this case? Let's go ahead and bring in family law attorney Jennifer Brandt, and joining us this morning, parenting and family relationship expert, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Dr. Sue, thanks so much for being with us this morning and joining Jennifer on the panel. Why don't we talk about this case? This is another situation where we're seeing some alleged infidelity, and it leads to possibly a murder. I covered a case like this in Texas. He was a Border Patrol agent, and he was found guilty. So we see this a lot. What do you think?
Good morning, ladies. Yeah, I think we see this a lot because in this world today, people like this want everything, and they don't want to be found out that they have committed infidelity and give up the life that they've had with their wife and possibly the children that they have already. So they figure in their crazy mind that the only thing that they can do is discard what is causing them problems. Now, we don't know yet what the facts are of this case completely, but we're living in a world today, Kelly, that's very different than was many years ago. And when people don't want to deal with things, a lot of times in these high conflict relationships, they discard them thinking they can get away with everything and go on and live their life. But unfortunately, most times they do get caught.
Yeah, absolutely. Jennifer, let's bring you in on this. So there's this claim that he gave her some money to have an abortion and she kept the money instead, didn't have the abortion. I mean, Michael Ayala tracked that package for us here, and he says, according to the reports, he was saying, there's no way I could be the father. So you're thinking, okay, maybe he never had any interactions with the woman, but then clearly the DNA match says that he did. So I don't know. What's your take on this one?
Well, I think it's a sense of panic, and we've seen this in many, many cases where it leads to murder. He had 4 children and a wife, and he really did not want his wife to know what he was doing on the side. And having another child in the world would mean potentially more financial obligations for him. His wife finding out, he's probably thinking of the cost of all of this, but what he's not thinking about is that where he is now. I mean, sitting at trial, potentially facing death row for an act that was so senseless to kill this woman. I mean, so I do think it's a sense of panic we see in these cases. They don't want their spouse to find out, but it's a real misguided thought, when they think that killing someone is better than potentially facing divorce and the financial obligations that go along with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always crazy.
I mean, we just see these cases again and again. It is crazy.
Yeah. Dr. Sue, so let's talk about it when, in the court system, how do jurors look at situations where there's infidelity?
So I think jurors look at it as if there is infidelity, that there is a possibility that because of that, it could lead to murder. So because of that, I think they're going to have a good idea here in their minds that what possibly took place here. They're not going to be fond of somebody that has committed infidelity. I mean, most people are not. So I think that has a very big influence on the way that they're going to go here. She's also a very pretty young woman. And I think the key factor here is, when we're talking about this, is that he denied that he was having sexual relationships with her, but obviously he wasn't, because his DNA matched the baby's. So right then and there, I think the jury is going to see right through this mess, Kelly.
Yeah, obviously he was having interactions with her. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Men sometimes. But Jennifer, let's talk about a possible defense. Her body was found in a ditch. We don't have a lot of time yet, but what could be a possible defense? I mean, this isn't the right guy.
Yeah, someone else did it. Someone else was, had a grudge against her or but I mean, the lies and the Google searches, I mean, there's a lot of evidence against him. So I don't know. Maybe he could say that he panicked and got into an argument with her and, try to reduce the charges. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see exactly what happens here. It's going to be an interesting one to watch. Ladies, thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.